The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks, go.
The Canucks are in Nashville for the first time since they won a playoff series with this very same core. Awkward, okay? Speaking of which, if JT Miller scores a goal today, does he stick the middle finger at Jim Rutherford in the press box? Does Elias Pettersson do the same thing? For real. This may be the most awkward game in Canucks history, okay? It's must-see TV. Speaking of which, let's do this. Locked on Canucks.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
People, we back doing this, and that's giving you your Locked On Canucks. Yes, your Canucks every day right here on this program, and we're performing this where? At the Don't Doze Art Lab. Give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and support the place that takes care of that West Coast bias, okay? For real. Now, speaking of that West Coast bias, I don't know if I want to apologize or not, but it's been dark. It's been dark for the better part of like 7 to 10 days here. And here we are about to play the Nashville Predators in what may be the most awkward game in Canucks history. Yet I say that knowing that we're 1 point, yes, 1 point out of a playoff spot. That's something else. 1 point away from securing that 8th seed and possibly playing the Oilers, okay? Speaking of which, okay, look at this comment or question. What is this, Ashley? Again, this comes from the resident Oilers fan on the program, and he's saying it's funny because the Oilers bring in all these so-called toxic players like Evander Kane, Corey Perry, Zach Kassian, and they turned out great. It's all about the locker room and how you control it. Honestly, that's a great point. That's a great point. And I know we got to talk about the Nashville Predators game, but you can control the environment in that locker room when your leaders are leaders, okay? Or when you have more than one leader. Case in point, right? Quinn Hughes, the captain, doing the most on the ice, a great leader in that room too, I guarantee it. The second best leader in that room cannot be Tyler Myers, okay? Heck, it can't even be Brock Besser. It's got to be the guys who get paid the most, right? It kind of does. It's got to be Elias Pettersson and JT Miller, okay? Two players who must be feeling very, very awkward going into tonight's game in Nashville. Man, oh man. Again, one of the most awkward games in Canucks history. Because how do you do it? How do you do it? If you're one of those two guys, right? JT Miller, Elias Pettersson, caught blatantly lying to the people, right? And rightfully so. They're not going to spill the beans of the dressing room dynamic. They're not going to make themselves look bad. For months and months and months, they've been saying, right, that there's no beef. There's nothing going on. JT Miller saying, do you want me to bring Pettersson with me to do this interview? Pettersson saying, oh, you guys are still talking about this bullshit. Pardon my language. And they got caught because their president, Jim Rutherford, who some people want gone, ratted them out. He snitched them out. He confirmed the rumors, okay? These two don't like each other, and these two have created this bad start or this bad first half for the Vancouver Canucks, wrecking the dynamic, okay? They were proven guilty and, again, ratted out, and now they got to put on the sweater and perform against the Nashville Predators, one of the worst teams in the league, when, again, their team is 1 point behind the playoff bar. Like, this is must-win territory, and your two highest-paid players. They got to perform. This is awkward. Can they do it? Can they muster up the leadership? Can they play with some pride? Can they shut the naysayers up? Can they shut down the narratives? Can they start a whole new chapter? We'll find out tonight because, man, oh man, not only is this very awkward to view, it's also very, very fascinating, okay? As a sports fan, a big-time sports fan, as a big-time Canucks fan, I'm hyped for, again, this regular season matchup against the Nashville Predators because I'm so curious to see how this team performs after, again, they got ratted out by their president, okay? Speaking of president, okay, we got Trevor Beggs, okay? Big fan of Donald Trump. No, I'm joking, okay? We don't have to go there. Okay. We're not going to go there, okay? Trevor Beggs joining the program. He's the one that queued this up, the most awkward game in Canucks history. All in all, Trevor, I know you're excited for tonight. I know you are. Not even because of the playoff aspect of it, which again is fascinating to me. Like, I want to make the playoffs, but again, this is just super, super interesting. Like, how is this team that couldn't respond well in Winnipeg, didn't respond well against the Kings or the Oilers in Edmonton after losing to Buffalo? Like, how are they going to respond to this when, again, their president, dude, I thought snitches get stitches, man. And Jim Rutherford, man, ratting out Elias Pettersson and JT Miller, and they need those two to win tonight.
Man, oh man, for all the rhetoric you hear right now about, Rutherford's comments don't change anything, because that narrative is going around, certain aspects of both local and national media right now. I think that's a bunch of BS. I mean, you think of other conflicts in NHL history. I mean, look, there's all kinds of rumors flying around. I mean, Chris Pronger goes to the Stanley Cup final with the Oilers, leaves the next season. Conflicts do arise, but often there isn't a feud this public that happens in the middle of the season where all of a sudden these guys got to go back to battle together the very next day. And, you can tell JT Miller obviously said he didn't touch it, didn't want to comment on it. There was that report coming out of Nashville today. But this has to be, in my opinion, the most awkward game in Canucks history. And this is a team that, again, stripped Trevor Linden of their captaincy, gave it to Mark Messier, have go through all of that drama as well. But at that time, the Canucks were more or less past their cup contending window. I know there was some hope with the talent on the squads in the late 90s that they could get something done. But we're talking about a Canucks team right now with the best goddamn defenseman on the planet. A team that should be competing for a Stanley Cup. And instead, we're talking about this crap, this garbage. But again, for me, for media to say that it's not a big deal, everyone knew about it anyways. How do you think JT Miller and Elias Pettersson feel about that? Obviously, there's the organization knew about it. They were asked about it by media, but now this has become a confirmed international story if you're talking about the NHL, right? And I'm morbidly fascinated to see how these guys go out tonight and perform. And again, I think the glass half full is you hope this is a last-ditch effort to galvanize the troops, galvanize the boys, say, figure it out, learn how to play together, or you're definitely gone. But more likely than not, it's going to be hard to have your head in the game tonight for Miller, Pettersson, and the rest of the Canucks.
Oh, you really think it's gonna be a thing with the rest of the Canucks, right? I was thinking the same thing, because again, Rutherford confirmed it, right? This type of noise has confused the dressing room. It's knocked off the chemistry. It's become a bigger issue than more so picking up points and playing a strong game. But Trevor, don't you think that those two, again, I want to touch on this. Like, do you think there's any pride on the line for Pettersson and Miller? Like, do they want to be known as drama queens? Do they want to be known as, I want to use the word immature, because we don't really know what the hell happened between these two, but I will use the phrase, like, these two are showing and proving that they may care more about their individual feelings and their emotions as opposed to winning, right, in the NHL. Again, being the two highest paid players on the team, if you guys can't ignore your issues and help the team out, that's a problem. So again, like, knowing that that's the narrative written about them now, and that's kind of part of their resume, don't you feel as if those two want to shut everyone up and maybe like evolve and again, just get rid of all this BS? Because again, winning fixes everything, and the Canucks could win 3 straight tonight. We could be in a playoff spot, and like you laid out the schedule a couple days ago. Like, there's a chance for this team to win 5 or 6, maybe 6 straight before the Four Nations Cup, and that could quiet down the narrative. And again, it's their pride. Their pride is on the line, Trevor.
Yeah, look, I think about a lot of, past times in this market as well, both in terms of awkward games or guys who have been lambasted and how they came back. And two things come to my head. Like, think about the Sedin twins in their early years in Vancouver. Yeah, there was no social media, but there was a lot of talk in media and among fans about, you heard the Sedin sisters narrative. Hell, you had the most famous radio commentator, Neil McRae at the time, going on radio on a daily basis, calling these guys the Sedin sisters. You can bet that they heard that narrative. And they used it to galvanize themselves. They used it to be better. They brushed it off and became two of the best hockey players on the planet. Can Elias Pettersson and JT Miller do the same thing? I mean, with JT Miller, just based on his age, he's likely past his peak, but you still see this guy putting in the fight and trying right now. With Elias Pettersson, I think this is more of the narrative with him. Can he get past the negativity, get past the BS, and get back to being one of the best hockey players on the planet? It's probably the second most important storyline on the Canucks right now, aside from the fact of how do you keep Quinn Hughes happy and with this team for the rest of his career. To me, that's the biggest story. And the second one is probably what version of Elias Pettersson is going to show up. And just one more comment in terms of awkward games too. I know I'm all over the place right now. I think of Todd Bertuzzi coming back to this team after the Steve Moore incident, and with Bertuzzi in that instance, he was a good player, but he wasn't the same player that he was prior to that incident happening.
Damn, you took it way back, man. You took it way, way back. I don't even remember that. What would that have been? Like October of 2006 because of the lockout in 05?
Yeah,
That's
05,
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
a long ways
again,
back. And there's such a gap in between. That's a great point too.
Again, like I'm just so fascinated to see how they respond tonight, because if winning really matters to this core, they have to ignore the noise. And knowing that they're 1 point behind Calgary, with Calgary having a game in hand still, like this is so important. Like ignore the noise and just win. Like I want to see their competitive nature. I want to see it on full display tonight. And I think today's the most important game of the season, because if we don't see that, then you can pretty much write off the Canucks. You can. Real talk, because you're playing Nashville too. It's not like you're playing the strongest of opponents. Like if you're taking hockey serious and you're taking winning serious, then you got to cut the bullshit out. Ignore that. Do it for your teammates. Do it for one another. Pettersson and Miller, again, you can evolve right now. You can become the leaders of this team. Things can happen in a flash, right? Things can happen in a flash. Like prove that you're really about hockey here, and just get the win. Screw it. And I know it's super hard because now you have your organization talking shit about you and all this BS making your life harder. Just go out and play hockey. Let's see if you can keep that at the forefront, because that will show not only the fan base, but the rest of the NHL what you guys are really, really about. Because again, I'm thinking about individually how these guys may think they're being perceived in the hockey world, because there's a lot of diva energy here. There's a lot of drama here, and nobody really wants to bring that into their dressing room, especially a guy like JT Miller. I mean, I wonder if he is slowly climbing out of the emotional toll that this may have taken on him. Again, he took the 10-game break for personal reasons. You can connect the dots. Like maybe that had something to do with Pettersson. Who knows? We'll never know. But you see him fighting more. Like he fought against the dude in Calgary, Kevin Ball. Then he just got to fight against Braden Shen. You saw the goalie score too against St. Louis. Like you're kind of seeing him climb out of this hole offensively and helping this team out in the positive way. Now, again, I want to see that tonight, Trevor. Like I know with all this noise and everyone's talking about like the season's over. I've even painted that narrative too. But just being 1 point out, the fan in me, the hockey fan in me, I don't like soap operas. Straight up, I did watch a lot of Jerry Springer back in the day, but I don't want this to be like that. Okay, I don't. I just want to focus on winning, Trevor. And we're 1 point behind a playoff spot. We're playing Nashville. Let's get the job done tonight, Trevor. Let's not sink the season like Miller, Pettersson, Hughes, etc. Demko, who might get the start tonight, I'm hearing, okay? Just get it done. Get it done. Shut us up. Clean up the room. Winning fixes everything. Let's do it tonight in Nashville. And Trevor, isn't it ironic? Like how this team won a playoff series in Nashville, and now like months ago, and now there's all this noise surrounding the team, and we're in Nashville tonight. It's like you could argue that was the peak of the Canucks and this core, and we're here again in Nashville.
I mean, I would argue they might have peaked in Game 5 with JT Miller scoring with 30 seconds left to go up 3-2 on the Oilers in that series. That was probably the peak for this core at this point, and likely was the peak of this core based on what we're hearing and based on what's probably going to happen. Kyle, after the break here, let's talk a bit more about the details ahead of tonight's game between the Predators and the Vancouver Canucks. I do want to touch on Rutherford's comments from his second article with Ian McIntyre from Sportsnet as well. We didn't touch on that yesterday. And maybe we'll talk a bit about Bo Horvat as well. Also want to get some of your comments. So lots to get to here on Locked On Canucks. Thanks for joining. More coming up on the other side after we shout out our friends over at FanDuel. Deal, baby. If you're betting on sports, you gotta go check out FanDuel, okay? They're the only place where you should be placing those bets. And right now, if you're a new customer, FanDuel's got your back, because all you gotta do is bet $5 and get up to $200 in bonus bets. And right now, FanDuel, they are the official partner of Super Bowl 59. Kyle, I'm gonna ask you this, because I know you don't watch any other games other than the Green Bay Packers, but who do you got in Super Bowl 59?
Taylor Swift and the Kansas City Chiefs.
T-Swift. When's the T-Swift halftime show coming out, eh? Are they waiting for Super Bowl 60 for that one or what?
I don't know. Kendrick does have a song with Taylor Swift. People forget about that, so you never know.
Ooh, I didn't even know that, man. You know, like I said, I discovered music about 7 years after it's made, but I'm a big fan of Kendrick at the Super Bowl. You can place bets on the halftime show, on the Kool-Aid, whatever, the Gatorade, whatever it is. Go place those bets on FanDuel. Again, new customers get $5. Bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets, and that's on FanDuel.com.
People, we back doing this, and that's talking about your Vancouver Canucks. My name is Kyle Bowen. That right there is the second best dad in the world, Trevor Beggs. Speaking of which, make his children proud, okay? Hit the like button right now in the video. It really does support the show. Subscribe to the show. We're almost at 2,600 subscribers. I want to call my mom tonight and let her know that. And join the Discord. I think we're 2 people away from 100 people in the Discord, slowly growing a pretty strong community. I know we lost Infamous a couple weeks ago. It is what it is. Emotional times. Right? We're all over the place. But at the end of the day, Trevor, like I always say this, hate us or love us, disagree with us or not, like we're all in this together, man. It's go Canucks go. And I can't emphasize enough how badly I want to make the playoffs this year, Trevor. So again, tonight feels like a must-win game, and I hope they get the job done in Nashville. And who knows what's going to happen next, but just make the playoffs this year, man.
Just make the goddamn playoffs. I mean, yeah, it's crazy to think that despite everything going on right now, and again, this has been going on for a long time. I mean, reports suggesting that the Canucks decided that they were going to trade at least one of these guys now 7 weeks ago. And ironically enough, the Canucks didn't win back-to-back games over those 7 weeks until this week. And again, 1 point out of a playoff spot. The Flames lose last night to Logan Thompson and the Washington Capitals. So again, the Canucks got a chance tonight to climb back into a playoff spot. And man, oh man, if you want to talk about trying to find a different narrative than talking about this unbelievable rift between your 2-star players, how about string together your first 3-game win streak in a couple of months and get back into a playoff spot? And again, you're playing a Predators team tonight who, granted, the Canucks have lost to twice already this season. If you're the Canucks and you want to be a playoff team, you cannot lose all 3 games against a bottom-feeding team, which the Predators are this season. And Kyle, I don't know if you're trying to reverse drinks wearing that yellow sweater today, but Nashville has not played great hockey over the past 3 games. They did beat the Sharks 7-5 and 6-5, and then lost their last game to the Ducks 5-2. Yossi Saros led in 5 goals in his last start, got pulled the start before, letting in 4 goals on 8 shots. Fact of the matter is, this Predators team, they've shown a bit more. Philippe Forsberg, one of the top scorers in the league over the past month, but this is not a very good Predators team. And I think the Canucks, they got to get this win tonight for a number of reasons, just to help the morale of that room after everything that's gone on. And because of the fact that you can't lose games to a team this bad, you can't get swept by a team this bad in the season series if you want to be a playoff team.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I feel like today's like the day. Like again, after tonight's game, Calgary will have 1 game in hand. So you want to take advantage of like the so-called catch-up that we've done over the last couple of games, but also you don't want to lose 3 straight to Nashville. Like you want to prove that, again, you could ignore the noise and get the job done. And if you lose to one of the worst teams in the league after all this noise has been surrounding the team, it's like pretty indicative that this team will not get the job done this year. Again, like have some pride and shut us up. Now let's talk about some of the details though. Because we got some comments coming in, right? People asking, is Lankin going to start today? Okay, Assam Ali saying Lanks has to start tonight. Okay, it's a crucial game. Matt saying, I think Lankin should start tonight. Well, sorry, Demko's starting tonight. He is. And I'm not going to say I'm completely surprised. In fact, I know Rick Tockett's a hockey nerd. I feel like he's a hockey philosopher too. A part of me believes that he feels as if one of the leaders on this team has to get the start, has to play a day after Rutherford opens his mouth. And Demko is one of the leaders of the team. So a little bit of magic possibly in the air if Demko gets the job done. But at the same time, this is a bit of a risk, Trevor.
It is a risk. And it's wild that we're at the point in this Canucks timeline where fans are clamoring for the goaltender not named Thatcher Demko to start for this team. And you can see why. I mean, the guy has struggled, but you got to let Demko play his way out of this. And you talk about it being a must-win game. So the logic in terms of letting Demko play his way out of this and you must win this game don't really go hand in hand. But you also got to trust the dude who was the second best goalie in the league last season. You got to trust the dude to get out of this. And Kevin Lankinen played the Predators twice already this season. He was awesome in his last game. Again, only let in the one goal. The Preds got 2 empty netters and a 3-0 win. But the game before that, he got a bit exposed by the Predators. I mean, mainly on the power play. They kind of picked him off glove side a couple of times. So and it's not a guaranteed win if Kevin Lankinen starts. It's not a guaranteed win if Thatcher Demko starts. But, I think Thatcher Demko, again, Kyle, I like what you said there, a leader on this team. And you can't just keep playing Lankinen game after game after game because you haven't like what you've seen from Demko. He is, again, one of the best goalies on the planet. And he's just got to play his way out of a injury that no one's ever seen in this sport. I mean, what a crazy Canucks season. I mean, I don't think I still want to find another example of a rip between two stars like this in the NHL. I can't think of a good example at the top of my head. I'll keep digging into that. And then on top of that, you get Demko suffering an injury that no other NHL players ever suffered. I mean, such a wild season overall. Speaking of wild injuries, Dakota Joshua has had a crazy year again, testicular cancer, and then he missed 11 games with a leg injury that he suffered against the Nashville Predators on January 3rd. He is back into the lineup tonight for your Vancouver Canucks. Looks like Sasson comes out. And then we saw it in the comments as well. DPD is not in the lineup tonight. Looks like Noah Juleson gets back in there.
Okay, so I'm not totally surprised in that. I mean, you look at the third period that DPD did have, and it was a struggle. I mean, I know the puck went in off of him in front of the net, a bit unlucky, but Rick Tocchet's already made it clear that he doesn't like when defensemen just skate across the crease like that, And then I saw a couple turnovers with DPD again in the third period too. I think you take in account all those things, and again, you can't be surprised that Rick Tocchet is making the switch. You can be mad though, because Noah Juleson's floor has been so low this year, so inconsistent. I think he's played 30 plus games this year, and he has 0 points. He's -11, and he can't make a pass. And DPD can, but DPD is also a third-round pick from last year. He's got to slowly merge his way into the lineup. But I'll say this: another risk from Rick Tocchet, because his button pushing this year has been so bad. Like his lineup maneuvering, his thought process, his execution when it comes to the X's and O's, and who he's putting into the lineup and his line combinations, again, for the most part, has been bad. And here's him taking another chance.
Yeah, chances aplenty for this Canucks team. And again, I don't have too much of a debate about taking DPD out over Juleson. Look, Juleson hasn't been good. DPD is 2 games into his NHL career. He's not moving the needle one way or the other. I thought he played fine in his debut. Obviously played less in the first game, played a little more in the St. Louis game, had a mistake or two, but so have so many other Canucks on this team. So I don't know if I love the idea of messing with the winning lineup, just get Noah Juleson back in there. So I probably wouldn't have made the change myself, but at the end of the day, what do we debate about DPD versus Juleson to take away from the Miller Pettersson storyline? I mean,
it's more telling that it's not Darnay coming in, because Darnay is making $2 million.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, Darnay sucks though, for real. Like, he's one of the worst D-men in hockey. So I'm not totally surprised. And again, I know what's going to happen. I called this early on in the season, especially if the Canucks start winning more games. Darnay is getting waived. Like, he's on the path of getting waived. You can't have somebody making $2 million just sitting in your press box, and I don't know, just he's gone. Okay, his days are few and far between. He's gone. Anyways, let's get to the other side. I want to touch more on the Rutherford conversation. I know maybe it's getting a little redundant, but I still see some comments about him using this as a mask to step away from the failure that was last offseason when it came to assembling this decor. But again, we'll touch more on that on the other side. Begsy, who we shouting out?
All right, we're going to cut to break here again. You're listening to Locked On Canucks, your Canucks every damn day. And we got to shout out our friends over at Gametime. Good to go. All right, our friends over at Gametime. If you're buying tickets, the only place you got to go is Gametime. And man, oh man, hopefully there is some heavy discounts on Canucks tickets. But whatever you're doing right now, whatever you're buying, you got to make sure you get those prices on Gametime, because even though Canucks prices are going to be discounted, you know you're going to get that lowest price guarantee when you buy tickets on Game Time, okay? And Kyle, man, oh man, what's even one of the better thrills other than going to NHL games is going to NFL games as well. I know you went to the Seahawks and Packers last year. You had a good time, obviously, with the Packers kicking my Seahawks ass. And Game Time wants me to talk about that too, okay? Again, NFL playoff games, just one game left in the season, but NFL games are a thrill, so you can make sure you get your NFL tickets on Game Time as well. Whether it's NFL, NHL, or exotic dancers, take the guesswork of buying tickets with Game Time. Go download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
People, we back doing this, and that's talking about your Vancouver Canucks. My name is Kyle Bowen. That right there is Trevor Beggs. A one love to the Don't Those Art Collective and the Art Lab for giving us the space to give you that West Coast bias. Do us all a favor, hit the like button. Hey, speaking of which, I still got to do my 40 push-ups with my eyes closed. I don't know if you've ever seen a man do 40 push-ups with his eyes closed, but we did hit 40 likes on a previous video. So remind me, by the time this episode ends, we'll end it on the push-ups. Okay, Trevor?
Sounds good, buddy. I feel like I do all my push-ups with my eyes closed because I'm so weak that I'm like,
a special talent, man. Like a lot of people out there don't know that, like how hard it is to do anything with your eyes closed.
I feel like it might be harder to do push-ups with your eyes open.
Me too. Speaking of having your eyes closed, speaking of being old, Jim Rutherford, man. A lot of people referring to Jim Rutherford as the GM of the Vancouver Canucks. Like I was even hearing the Jeff Merrick show, the Sheet or whatever, and they were like they were just not even bringing up Patrick Alvin, like, oh, the GM, Jim Rutherford, when he's the president, blah blah blah. It's interesting, but yeah, if that's the case, then like Dan Jardine is saying, I want to get to one of his comments regarding Rutherford right here. These guys struck out last year in July, and a lot of people are just not happy, okay? Dan Jardine saying Rutherford is trying to blame the Canucks' regression on JT and Petey rather than on management's ability to put together a good bottom four defense. And again, I get the sentiment. You signed Darnay, you signed Forbert too, you extend Myers, you let go of Zadorov. There could have been other options other than Darnay and Forbert to help the floor of the team, and they failed. They failed. A big fat F. They really have. That being said, Miller and Pettersson getting paid what? $19.5 million combined. What in what other league or like who in the NHL has stars like that getting paid that much? When they're struggling like the way they are, why in the hell are we blaming bottom four defensemen for their struggles? When it's so evident that there's been so many moments where they're just tuned out. They're too emotional. It's not Vincent Darnay's fault or Willie Desjardins' fault that Pettersson and Miller are struggling. Get your head out of your ass. That is stupid. I'm sorry, Dan. I love you, Dan. Longtime fan of the show, but there's a lot of people thinking like this. And what's the bar for Pettersson and Miller now? If that's the case, oh, sorry, Derek Forbert is holding Elias Pettersson back. What? Pettersson has 46 points since signing that contract. What? You know what I'm saying? It's his fault. It's Miller's fault. It's not Derek Forbert's fault. It's not Noah Juulsen's fault. Okay, I'm not even going to say it's Jim Rutherford's fault. Obviously, having the floor be raised and having better defensemen, obviously it connects everything and it establishes the glue and does all that jazz. But when things are breaking apart, you need your leaders and your highest paid players to help fix things, to become the glue, to go above and beyond. And those two haven't all season long.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's there's not just one issue with the Canucks. There's multiple issues, but it's clear now that the main issue is the two star players can't get along, and it's affecting their performance on the ice, and it's affecting the team's performance on the ice. Now, Jim Rutherford, I did find it interesting. He has that explosive interview with the Globe and Mail, and then talks to Ian McIntyre from Sportsnet, and it was almost like he was trying to backtrack. Like he stood his ground, but he almost tried to backtrack in a sense. And here's one of the quotes that really stood out to me from that interview when asked about the transparency undermining the Canucks negotiating position on trades. And Rutherford said, quote, "I'm not worried about that because if we trade these players, we will trade them when we decide to, when we get what we want. And if we don't, we won't trade one of them. Again, it's common sense." Is it really common sense, Kyle? Is it really common sense, Jim?
I think we got to believe that because Rutherford is not Jim Benning, right? Like he's not going to openly get fleeced on a deal. He's got way too much pride. So he's just making it known, like, yo, if you want these guys, don't come at me with like a 3rd round pick and like your 1st round pick from like 3 years ago is underdeveloping, right? If you want Miller, like you gotta still give me a good deal. And I like that. I don't mind that. I really don't. If Miller and Pettersson can ignore the noise and help this team win ASAP. Because again, winning matters. It really does. Now, Dan Jardine responding, okay, a mobile D makes a big difference in this team's offense. How about Elias Pettersson not fanning on one-timers on the power play time in and time out? How about him executing? How about JT Miller on the power play, not just throwing it to the middle of the ice or throwing it to the blue line blindly? You know what I'm saying? He's cleaned that up a bit, but you still see the turnovers. Is that Vincent Desharnais' fault? It's because these guys are not checked in completely. And as Rutherford alluded to, those two in this feud that they've had, it's wrecked the chemistry of the team. And to go dig further into that, when those two are on and playing at their best and ignoring the bullshit and the noise, the trickle-down effect makes everyone more confident. But when those two are off their game, it puts more pressure on guys like Derek Forbin and Vincent Desharnais and Noah Juleson and whomever. Like it breaks down the whole team. Okay, it really does. So again, I'm blaming both those players. But at the same time, I don't know, for whatever reason, Trevor, call me stupid, call me dumb, or call me positive. You kind of did this to me yesterday. Okay, you brought up how maybe this was Rutherford's last-ditch effort to wake up the club, right? To wake these guys up, to really attack their pride, attack their sentiment, just attack their aura. Maybe it wakes them up. And I woke up today like, yo, they're 1 point out of a playoff spot. Dude, maybe it does wake them up. And they do level up. Because the time is now. Trevor, the time is now. 1 point out of a playoff spot, okay? You got to capitalize on Quinn Hughes having a generational year. Generational year. Let's get it done. And let's get it done ASAP. And Pettersson and Miller, wake the puck up. Okay, get your head out of your ass. Stop thinking about yourself and help the team. Yes, the team win.
Kyle, amen to that. I mean, that was this is why we have you on Locked On Canucks, buddy. Unbelievable stuff from you, man.
Webcam for my push-ups, okay? You keep talking. Help a lot. You got to be a man of your word, okay? I don't know
All right, you get the push-ups done. I'm going to get to a comment or two before
my doctor said take it easy.
Canucks.
Let's see.
Adam's putting signs in the comments saying, stay positive, use what everyone says to push forward. I mean, look, again, I don't know if it's the most likely scenario, but there's a scenario here where the Canucks are galvanized by this. They decided to put it aside and push forward. And there's something that alludes to that in the comments as well. Let's get to it. Well, Kyle, stretches out and does that push-up. Let's go, buddy. Carmen Grable in the comments saying, Jim Rutherford trying to take the heat off of themselves and talk it. The feud is not the sole reason they're playing so bad. And he said, I've literally seen Petey and Miller the last couple of games being cordial on the ice. And I think that's a fair point because obviously there's a rip between Miller and Pettersson. They're not the best of friends, but how bad is it actually? Because these guys still are on the same power play together. They've been on the same penalty kill unit together. And I've seen them in practice together too. I mean, when I was at practice on Saturday, these two guys are working with Brock Besser, just the three of them in terms of their, one-touch passes to each other on the power play. So it's not that they can't work together. And again, we all have coworkers that we can't work with. But again, in a game like hockey, and when you're at the NHL and you're at the top of your craft, you absolutely got to be on the top of your game. And I think just even being a couple % behind, whether it's you don't want to put in the extra work at practice because you're not feeling it and you're not as glued in as you should be, that can take a Stanley Cup contending team to a wildcard team. And I think that's what you've seen from the Vancouver Canucks this season. But as Matt in the comment also saying, the season is definitely not over. One other comment got me thinking, so let's get to it here on Locked On Canucks. Tyler Grabab in the comments saying the roster turnover between 2014 and 2018 has contributed to this issue. And, honestly, I'm not sure if there was the roster turnover there was a whole different scenario because they were still trying to win with the Sedins and then kind of got forced to rebuild. I actually think this. I do wonder, this is just a theory from Trevor Beggs here. I do wonder if the team really fell apart after they lost Chris Tanev in the free agency of 2020. We all talk about losing to Foley and Stetcher and Markstrom, and I think that stuff all hurt as well. But I do wonder if Chris Tanev, who was called the dad in the locker room, the uncle in the locker room, he was kind of a glue guy, the older figure that held everyone together. And again, you saw when Chris Tanev left, they tanked in the North Division season. And aside from them all having career years last year, they haven't been the same team since. And
Trevor, I want to respond to that. Okay? You bringing up Chris Tanev is one thing. I know he's like an alpha leader, the dad, right? But how about bringing this up? For the second time in this core's tenure, they make the playoffs. They win a round in the playoffs, right? The bubble playoffs against St. Louis, they win a round. They do their thing. They take a strong team to 7 games in the second round. And in the offseason, they get rid of a lot of players that the core loved, right? Back in the day, it was Chris Tanev. It was Jacob Markstrom. Like, they traded Jacob Markstrom for freaking Braden Holtby, Like, they just made a lot of weird moves. And then this time around, they lost Zadorov. They lost Ian Cole. Like, this core is probably like, what the hell? Like, what the hell? Why does this always happen to us? Like, don't you lose players when you win Stanley Cups, not when, like, you're taking steps? So maybe they got a little butthurt from having it happen again.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think too. I mean, the Tampa Bay Lightning were a team that had consistent turnover before they won Stanley Cups, and they had it after they won Stanley Cups, obviously. So I don't know if that's necessarily the case. I mean, NHL teams got to deal with the fact that you have a core group of players and supporting guys are going to leave from time to time. Now, Kyle, I know you want to show the listeners your push-ups. I do got to get out of here, get back to the day job. I am on a time limit here. I could either play the music in the background. Okay.
Eyes closed. Trevor, you got to count to 40 for me and then sign out.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Well, Kyle's doing the push-ups. He's at 1, 2, and I'll try to sign. Okay. Shout out to the everydayers, the first-time listeners, the new subscribers, and all you who joined us here on this live edition of Locked On Canucks. If you're not listening to live, you join us on the podcast side. We love you as well. If you like what we're doing, make sure you go subscribe and like this video on the YouTube side. And on the podcast, go follow us and leave a 5-star review. Where do you get this content, man? Your Locked On Canucks doing push-ups for you, man. Kyle, I think I'm at 20 right now for you, buddy. You're doing a great job over there. Yell it out, man. Yell it out. Locked On Canucks, man. Go Canucks, go tonight. Again, it could be the chance to win their first 3-game win streak in a while. I do got to get out of here. Again, one love to Kyle Bowen. Putting in the work, man. You're dying over there, man. Unbelievable.
Your Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.